Hey guys, RanterInShades here, exercise my first time memorize vlog style, and it's time for a little A-ing of the Q's, if you know what I mean. Hopefully this will be shorter than the last two Q&As. I'd really like for it to be that way, so let's go. Cooper Sly King asks, 1. How many bands have you been in? Aside from Gardens of Acadia, I've only been in 2 even remotely serious bands, and even then, they were not really anything more than just a few guys playing a small little portion of covers. The first of which being back when I was in high school. It was a band I did with 2 of my friends. I was on guitar in this band. This band was called Metamorphosis. The second one was at the very beginning of my freshman year of college. This was like the semester before Gardens formed. I was on drums in this band, and it was called, the band anyway, it was called Barley Fever. And this band, you know, this particular band, my god, this was a joke, honestly. The singer was a really controlling asshole who never let anybody else have any say in songwriting or even songs to cover. It was a pain in the ass working with him. I'm not really going to go into too much deal on it, so let's go with his second question. I've just seen Tool in concert. Amazing, BTW. Opinions on Tool? I do like Tool a good bit. I like the albums Lateralus and Enema. I think that's how it's pronounced. Corbin Petty asks, what is your favorite song you did with Gardens of Acadia? Before I answer this question, I should let you guys know that video that I made last summer where I was basically, you know, promoting my band, I unlisted that video mainly because due to some lineup changes and me just not wanting to give one particular individual any positive promotion. So I unlisted the video. I'll have it linked in the description for any of you guys that want to watch it. But anyway, my favorite song that Gardens of Acadia does would be this one song, which if you've seen any of the videos on the band's YouTube channel, this is a song that we regularly do live, and it's called Boundaries. And I'll play a little clip of me playing the riff to that song. Child of Bodom 1314 asks, what movies have you seen this year and which was the best? I've only gotten around to seeing 2. I really do not go out to the movies that often, mainly because I have no friends and nobody invites me. The 2 movies that I've seen this year would be Neighbors and A Million Ways to Die in the West, and out of the 2 of those, I liked Neighbors considerably better. I didn't even think Million Ways to Die in the West was even bad at all. I just thought Neighbors was a lot more clever. It had a lot better of a plot, and just overall it was a more fun experience. 2. What are the worst movies you've ever seen? Oh man, let me think. There's a few that I can think of. I've mentioned a few of these on my channel before. One of them being this movie called Rumor Has It, which is directed by Rob Reiner and stars fucking Jennifer Aniston and Kevin Costner. Piece of shit movie. Same with the Tim Burton remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I hated that fucking movie. This movie called Saving Silverman, that's what it was. Really cheesy movie, really not very interesting of a movie to watch. Those are just a few of the worst movies I've ever seen. The Joker Fan 95 asks, other than Crazy Kids, what are some honorable and dishonorable mentions for your best and worst song lists for 2013? I suppose Treasure by Bruno Mars would make an honorable mention for the best of. I hadn't been as exposed to that song at the time, but you know, that's an okay song. Not as great as Locked Out of Heaven, but still a pretty catchy song. 2. Have any of the songs from either of the aforementioned lists soured or grown on you, and if so, which ones? No, I can't really say any of them have. I haven't really heard a few of them in a while. As far as my opinions, they haven't really changed. 3. Will there be honorable or dishonorable mentions for this year's list? We'll have to wait and find out. Maxmillion222 asks, what gaming channels do you like? I mentioned a few gaming channels I like in my top 20 favorite non-ranting YouTube channels video. Those are really the only few. Other than that, I'm really not a fan of gaming channels. Just not my thing. 2. How did you react to TakeShotAction's strike from YouTube? I mean, at the end of the day, TakeShot is always going to be my friend. I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, oh, screw you, TakeShot, or no, or anything like that. It's his decision at the end of the day, but the only thing that I really had a problem with at all was the explanation that he gave, that, you know, it was because of Sam Pepper and V1I. Like, who leaves YouTube just because of a specific person or two specific people? I mean, do I hate those guys? Do I think they're douchebags? Yeah, but I'm still here. I'm not going to leave just because, you know, YouTube doesn't terminate. I just ignore the shit. That's really the only issue I had with, you know, TakeShot's explanation. But at the end of the day, me and him are still friends. I'm not upset at him or anything. Hopefully he can make a more reasonable decision. Hopefully he can, you know, rethink this a little, and hopefully shit can be cool. Liam M Hennessy asks some really lengthy questions, but I'm only going to get to the main points. For his first question, he asks, what are your thoughts on the bitter rivalry between thrash and glam metal as a glam metal fan and Metallica fan yourself? He's referring, of course, to the Metallica poster and the Poison poster being over here. I actually made a video last year called Genre Wars Are Pointless, which pretty much, you know, answers that question. So if you haven't seen that, go watch that video. His second question, what is your opinion on Guns N' Roses? Referring, of course, to the Guns N' Roses poster over here. I like the albums Appetite for Destruction, Lies, and the Use Your Illusion albums. Other than that, I really can't say I care much for Guns N' Roses. I think those are all good albums, without a doubt. I think fucking Slash is a good guitarist, at least for the genre, for this particular style. I can't really say I care much for Guns N' Roses these days, not unless Slash, Duff, Izzy, and either Steven Adler or Matt Sorum on drums, they reunite with a different vocalist and tour as Guns N' Roses, and Axl Rose is forced to suffer. That will be the only instance in which I can really say I'd care for Guns N' Roses these days, because I just do not care for Axl these days. 3. Are there any glam metal bands you don't like or respect, and grunge bands that you do like or respect? I never said that I never liked grunge. I mean, for the record, I think AlysonStoner is, you know, one of my top 5 favorite bands of the 90s, second only to Rage Against the Machine, actually. As far as other grunge bands, or bands labeled as grunge that I like, those would include Stone Temple Pilots, Mother Love Bone, Soundgarden, Mudhoney, the Melvins, and Green River. Other than that, I don't really listen to much grunge. And as for glam that I don't like, there's really only a select few, and it's mainly because, you know, the image is too over the top and the music doesn't really have anything much to contribute. This would apply to bands along the lines of, nobody's gonna know these bands, because not unless you're like a major glam fanatic like myself. But bands like Wrathchild UK and Tiger Tails, Diamond Rex, Dirty Looks, and, you know, bands like those. Evan Morris asks, what is your favorite dinosaur? I have 2 favorites. One would be Yoshi, and the other would be the Yee dinosaur. The Random Gangsta asks, 1. Do you think radical anti-feminists are just as bad as radical feminists? Well, radicals of anything are, at the end of the day, always going to be bad. I personally agree more with the anti-feminist side, but, you know, there's a limit that everybody needs to realize. You know, it's the same thing with religion. The same thing applies to, like, you know, Christians versus atheists and all that. It's the same principle. I mean, my channel is pretty much revolved around radical metalheads. That's basically the more mature technical term for metal elitists. 2. If you were the director of the music video of your favorite song, what would your creative take on it be? For this, I'll talk about the song The Walking Wounded by Bayside. Great song, check it out. I would say that it would take place on like a battlefield with, you know, the 2 opposing sides basically neck and neck with each other, not wanting to give in, not wanting to, you know, look like a coward in front of the other side. And that's basically the premise of what I would do if I was directing a music video for that. 3. Would you ever get any tattoos in the future? I personally can't think of anything that I would want to get that I know I wouldn't regret later, or something that I know for a fact would pretty much stick with me forever. Hash Slinging Sea Bear. Great name, dude. Other than classic rock and metal elitists, do you hate alternative elitists? If you're referring to, like, you know, the indie hipsters who only listen to, like, you know, really underproduced and really light and soft type music, then I can't really say I'm a fan of them. Jacob M. Keen asks, what are your thoughts on Alyson Stoner's song Dragon? That's what you wanted. Well, her name is Alyson Stoner, and her song is called Dragon. It makes me think of Puff the Magic Dragon. And in all seriousness, no, I have never heard that song before. 2. Who is your favorite female singer? Lacey Sturm of Flyleaf. 3. Who's your favorite male singer? Sebastian Bach of Skid Row. 4. Which of them do you like the most? Between Lacey Sturm and Sebastian Bach, I'd definitely say Bach, because the only Flyleaf I really listen to would be just the first album, nothing really much outside of that. And Bach I listen to a lot more of outside of his work with Skid Row. Some of his solo work I think is pretty good, so yeah, I'm definitely a bigger fan of Bach. Stormer Productions asks, 1. Thoughts on PewDiePie? I think I gave my general opinion of PewDiePie in my previous video, and probably somewhere else, but I'll give a more in-depth answer. I'm not a fan of PewDiePie's content, mainly because I'm not a fan of gaming channels. It's just not really my thing. PewDiePie, by that logic, wouldn't really be somebody I'd enjoy. But, you know, at the same time, from what I've seen and heard, PewDiePie sounds like a really down-to-earth and humble guy. And I can respect that about somebody like him with as big of a celebrity status as PewDiePie. So that's really my opinion on PewDiePie. I don't hate him. His content is just not really for me. 2. Who inspired you to start doing music? I believe it was like back in elementary school when I think it was the middle school or maybe high school band and orchestra would, you know, go on these field trips playing at all the elementary schools in my area, and I thought at the time, wow, instruments, they look cool, they look fun. So I took up violin when I was in 3rd grade. Then when the opportunity came to learn a band instrument, I thought that those instruments sounded a lot more fun, so I decided on drums because I just didn't like the mouthpieces at all, so here we are today. Superboy Prime asks, 1. What are your favorite classic rock bands? Out of the few classic rock bands that I can really say, you know, still remain pretty high as far as my favorite bands go, I would definitely include Rush, Deep Purple, Van Halen, Black Sabbath, and it's really about it, you know, as far as, you know, are they, you know, favorites or whatever, really high favorites. 2. What are your favorite punk bands? Bayside, Silverstein, Strung Out, A Wilhelm Scream, Green Day, Anti-Flag, Dead Kennedys, Agnostic Front, Sum 41, Story of the Year, and then you got ska punk bands like Less Than Jake and Real Big Fish. But, you know, those are, you know, a few of my favorites of punk bands. 3. What do you think about SpiderMan? I love the motherfucker. I like the original SpiderMan trilogy. Other than that, I really don't follow much. ZJ Donnan asks, what is your opinion on classical music? Well, being that, you know, I'm the quote-unquote band geek, that's pretty much how I lived the majority of my life, and being that I'm a music student, you know, who's taken a bunch of, you know, theory classes, I've been around classical music a lot. While it isn't really something I listen to, it's something that I've been around so much that I have a bit of an appreciation for it. What is your opinion on film music? I like composers along the lines of Danny Elfman, John Williams. If you could only listen to music from one country, which one would it be? Either US, Canada, Sweden, or maybe Japan. Put That Goddamn Knife Down asks, 1. Are you a fan of hardcore punk? Yes, 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 and yes. I mean, a few of the bands I listed earlier, to the person who asked about punk bands, a good bit of them are hardcore bands, and hardcore for the past, you know, I want to say 6 months has been just this really growing love of mine. It's something I've been growing to love dearly, and just to add on to that, the band that I reviewed recently, the last band I reviewed. They're a hardcore band, so that should tell you a bit. 2. Are you doing a worst and best songs of 2014 lists? Yes, I am, and I'm very much looking forward to making them. 3. Do you agree with the right to bear arms? For self-defense purposes, and if it's part of your job to know how to handle a gun properly, then yes, you should have the right to own a gun, but only really for those purposes. 4. Favorite South Park episode? God, there's just so many to pick from. One particular one that comes to mind would be the episode called Butter's Very Own Episode. That is a really funny one, mainly because of, you know, just all these weird twists and just how naive Butters is to the situations. That's one of my favorites. Another one would be the fucking Timmy and the Lords of the Underworld episode, mainly because of that fucking song, which is awesome. And another one that's actually coming to mind would be the one Death Camp of Tolerance, which is the one with, you know, the tolerance and all that. Nikita Lane asks, 1. Do you like prog rock and prog metal? Absolutely. I love progressive music. The interesting ideas, the melodies, the time changes, just the overall musicianship. It's just something I just love dearly. And also, just to add on to that, you know, the band that I play in is a progressive rock band, so that gives me another level of appreciation for it. 2. What are some of your favorite Muse Productions episodes? I look at this in 2 fields. My favorite of his rants and my favorite of his reviews. My favorite of his rants would be the one he did on Broken Side, mainly because he just goes all out on that. It's well structured and just a really entertaining watch. And my favorite of his reviews would be the review he did of Ass by Big Sean. That fucking review is funny. It's really fucking funny. There's a lot of really cool lines such as, that wouldn't work. Well, maybe if she had one of those shelf asses, then maybe. Why am I overanalyzing this? 3. What are your thoughts on nu metal and alternative metal bands? I love that genre too. In fact, my favorite band is an alternative metal band, Alter Bridge. P.S. Sorry for bad English, I do not know how to speak it well. No excuses? Official TNF France asks, 1. What are your favorite Stanley Kubrick films? The Shining, which is my favorite horror film, A Clockwork Orange, and Full Metal Jacket. 2. Have you seen the new Dumb and Dumber? If so, what do you think? I haven't had the time to see it, nor have I felt really inclined to see it, mainly because I always have this weird skeptic about sequels, especially since it's been so long since the first Dumb and Dumber. I don't know, I'm just a bit skeptical about this new one. 3. Can you list all the instruments you are able to play? Guitar, drums, bass, really basic keyboard, and vocals, even though I think I'm a shitty vocalist, and various percussion instruments that do not include xylophone. 4. Can you play us some 12-bar blues? Joseph Mangeli asks, 1. What do you think of these bands? Amorphous, Amaranth, Breakin' Benjamin, 3 Days Grace, Evanescence, Within Temptation, Sick Puppies, Hailstorm, Skillet, Red, and 1,000 Foot Crutch. I'm a fan of all of those except for the first 2 because I just really don't know anything about them. 2. Have you ever read or watched The Outsiders? If so, what's your favorite character? I've seen the movie The Outsiders, it's a great film. I don't really have a favorite character, but it is just a great overall film. All Out War 5001 asks, 1. Top 5 Kiss albums in your opinion, and your opinions with Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer and Ace Frehley's and Peter Criss's makeup. I honestly could give a shit less. I mean, they pretty much, you know, fulfill all the, I guess, duties required with, you know, being the lead guitarist and drummer in Kiss. For my top 5 Kiss albums, those would include Creatures of the Night, Crazy Nights, Love Gun, Dress to Kill, and a tie between Lick It Up and Revenge. 2. Do you think the Rust in Peace Megadeth lineup will return? As awesome as that would be to see, I do not think it's going to happen. I did see an article of Nick Menza saying that he was open to a possible rejoining of Megadeth, but as far as Marty Friedman, I'm just not counting on it. 3. Opinions on Sum 41, and if you like them, which albums are your favorites? I mentioned earlier that I like Sum 41. My favorite albums of theirs would include Does This Look Infected and All Killer No Filler. Brennan Boggs asks, 1. Have you ever stumbled upon any music from video games that you've listened to outside of games? On one of my brother's video games, he really enjoys playing Madden NFL 12, which has a pretty cool soundtrack, and there was one song that I found in the soundtrack to be really, really great, and that would be the song That Ain't Classy by a Canadian white rapper called Classified. Great song, really great message, and something I'd recommend that you check out if you're a fan of hip-hop with a good message. 2. What are some songs that you were introduced to by movies? The song Raised on Radio by this band called The Ravens, which was in the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And finally, Zombie Dozer 101 asks, 1. Do you listen to any drone metal at all? None that really comes to mind. 2. What are your thoughts on Corey Taylor's thoughts, that sounds really redundant, of people using their phones at shows? I agree with the general idea that, you shouldn't have your phone out, you should be just, enjoying the band. But, I wouldn't just completely close the idea of having your phone out, because, there are some portions that you want to film, such as if you want to film a particular guitar solo or drum solo, then I don't see a problem with filming that. But if you're going to a concert, you should at least be there to enjoy the music. And I remember in Cover Killer Nation's video of, the top 5, I believe, ways to have fun at a concert, he even said that in his video. And I agree that, if you're putting down money to see a band, you should at least, give them your fucking full attention. So thank you to everyone that asked questions. Hopefully this was shorter. If not, oh well, I tried. So stay tuned for more videos, take care, and have a nice day. I'm Shades, and I will see you next time. I hate these bells.